So one of the primary ways we are programmed in the lack matrix is through emotional manipulation. The lack matrix is really built on the whole idea that there's only a certain amount of love. There's not enough. And so only those who are worthy to receive love, only those who prove themselves to be worthy can receive love, and therefore they're the only ones that can survive. So when you have this deep belief that there's not enough, then of course performance becomes a major part of how we act, what drives us, what motivates us, because we don't believe that we can access love on our own. Love has to be given from the external, and love is limited. And so the reason emotional manipulation works so well is because it's the whole rewards and punishments. And the problem is that changes depending on what mindset is in charge, what stronghold or principality is mainly controlling the consensus reality. So what you do to get love is going to be based on what mindset is actually controlling the reality. And that's why right and wrong changes frequently in the world, because we're constantly evolving. New perspectives kind of come in vogue, so to speak, and old perspectives die out. And that's how we continually grow and expand. But when we have the primary belief in lack, we are easily manipulated. Or we experience shame, and we collectively shame each other into agreeing to the lack matrix. And so how this plays out when it comes to our solar plexus and our throat chakra is that the body then doesn't trust it doesn't trust that inner force, because we hold back what we actually authentically feel, because we'll get in trouble if we speak our authentic truth. Or we'll get shamed if we speak our authentic truth, or we'll get shamed if we show our power and if it threatens anyone. And so there's all these dynamics that can happen when we're trying to express or attempting to just be what we are. And so this week, as we tune into the throat chakra and we tune into the solar plexus, I want you to ask yourself, first and foremost, just feel into the energy like we've been doing thus far. Feel into what that energy feels like in your body. Does your throat feel open? Does it feel closed? Does it feel foggy? Does it feel clear? Does your solar plexus feel open? Does it feel closed? What kind of emotions do you feel there? Do you feel shame? Do you feel a sense of self-esteem, which is authentically a healthy solar plexus is a healthy self-esteem? So what do you feel about yourself? And can you speak your truth? Do you allow yourself to tell people what you actually think and feel? And remember, we don't have to be disrespectful when we speak our truth, but it's important that we speak our truth, because if we say things that we don't actually believe, it's a lie. And it's also important to realize this energy that flows from our heart, that then expresses itself through our uniqueness and defines itself through our invincibility, and then moves up to express itself through our heart, and it's also moving into our personal power, our will, which is connected to what we truly want, what we truly desire. All of that is reflective in the subtle vibrations of our electromagnetic field, which, as we've talked about, is the toroidal field around your body. For most people, it goes out about 3 to 4 feet all around them, and it's like a cyclical sort of spaceship around you, an interdimension. It really is electric, and it's magnetic, and it's responsible for what you magnetize to you and what you repel away from you, which all has to do with desires, beliefs, and focus. And so as we move into these other chakras, we're getting a little more into the richness of what we are. If you pay attention, we're getting defined more and more and more. And if we have been constantly shut down when we were children, or if we weren't allowed to speak our needs, or especially if we weren't allowed to be able to express how we feel, which is where most people fall in, especially like my generation was just the generation that kind of emotions started to be acceptable. But my parents' generation, and probably for many of you, your parents' generations, it wasn't acceptable for the most part to speak your emotions in general. And so we're dealing with our ancestors, we're dealing with their beliefs because it's passed down quite literally. And also, as we've talked about, The DNA itself carries memory and experience, the story of those who've gone before us, and it also carries the wisdom. That's how we continually evolve, consciously evolve. So as we're tuning into this, it's important, remember we're reprogramming from the inside out. And the more we can pay attention to how our energy feels and where our focus is directed, that shows us what beliefs we have active. Because in any given moment, we can have a lack belief activated, like I'm not enough, there's not enough, it's not safe for me to speak my truth, I'm going to get in trouble if I show who I really am. If I show my power, it's going to get taken from me, or I'm going to be oppressed. So all of those things, or we can be feeling like I am enough, there is enough, there's an infinite amount of possibilities, and it all literally, how I experience this reality is determined by my focus and my perspective I have about that focus and my ability to express in any given moment how things feel. And that's why it's so important that we don't limit our emotional range to just happiness or anger, which is really the two strongest emotional energies most people vacillate between. Where it's acceptable as a society to feel happiness, and it's also acceptable to feel anger. And in fact, we thrive off of it most of the time because that anger really fuels the lack matrix in many ways. But anger fuels creation itself. And all emotions in between, the more in tune we can become with emotion, the more in tune we can become with our own personal rhythms, the better and better and better and better our creation becomes, our experience of this reality becomes. Because we realize we have a choice, and we also realize that our emotions change constantly. It's not even normal to feel one emotion constantly all the time. It's not even healthy. That an actual healthy electromagnetic field is filtering all different sorts of vibrations through it at any given moment. We're transmuting the experience. And so emotion is a key player here. So if you just stretch your consciousness down into your solar plexus and feel that, that's where, again, your will is, and your personal power, your sense of self-esteem, and also your sexuality, which is also with the sacral chakra, the one below it, which we'll go into next week. But your sexual energy is also expressed physically in a powerful way through your solar plexus. It's also connected to, obviously, the lower chakras, which are your sexuality and survival. And so all those lower chakras are representative of our connection to the physical plane, and our upper chakras are representative of our connection to the non-physical plane, or the etheric planes, or the spiritual planes, whatever you want to call it. It's the things we can't see, but they are one in the same. And it's important to remember as we look at this dynamic that the physical world, everything that has manifested in a physical, what we call like solid sort of reality, we can either see, smell, taste, hear, or touch it. That's our material world. That's all past tense. All of it's past tense. That's not happening first and then we happen. It's the opposite. We are experiencing and thinking and feeling, and all of that energy, which, as we've discussed, is emitted electrically from you and then magnetizes things to you. All of that is influencing subtle particles to move in specific directions that form the physical reality. And we're all doing it. So the more of us that are thinking and feeling in a certain way, the more the reality will mold. And we're all molding the physical reality, and we're all giving it meaning. And we will naturally gravitate towards, be drawn towards, through the law of attraction, people who think like us. So if you're looking at your reality and you feel like no one represents you, it's because it's most likely your reality that you're observing and experiencing is completely reflecting all the things you haven't actually acknowledged about how you truly feel, think, or a belief that you have that you're not looking at. And the reason why we don't look at beliefs is because it feels painful to go there. And we've been programmed and trained to not say certain things, to not do certain things, to not express certain things. So you see how the relationship between the body and the mind and the heart can get so out of balance when we've been programmed with a belief in lack, that there's not enough. And so like the only thing that matters is the physical body surviving, but not the heart thriving. Which again, if you think about how this all works, all life force comes from the heart. It doesn't make any sense to put the physical body's needs and survival needs before the heart. because they're all one and the same. The physical body is an expression of the subconscious mind. So all of your beliefs that you have not necessarily brought to your conscious mind, all the beliefs that you maybe can't bring to your conscious mind for whatever reason in the programming. And like I said, typically it has to do with being intimidated, bullied, and emotionally manipulated into staying in your place so that the lack matrix can function. The great news about all of this is we are the ones doing it. Something happened somewhere along the line where we lost trust in in what we are. We lost trust in our connection to our physical body and our connection to our heart and our connection to our mind. And so that's why we went unconscious. So the more and more and more we can tune in and understand how the programming in our physical body works, the more powerful we become as creators, and we just fine-tune our focus, fine-tune our ability to feel and express emotion. So the better we get at just feeling and expressing how we feel, the quicker the emotions go through, and then we don't get stuck in these emotional patterns that sometimes last for years because we learn how to transmute energy. And also, we really get out of the mindset of a lot of empaths get into the whole, is this my energy or is that theirs? Is this my emotion or is it theirs? Really, when it comes to being a creator, it doesn't matter. All that matters is you're feeling it and it's telling you something about what you need. So it's always meeting your need regardless of where the energy came from. And if you meet the need and it is someone else's emotions, you're transmuting it. And you're also feeling better. But anytime you avoid it, it means it's still there. So meeting the need could be as simple as just clearing your energy field out, saging, breathing deeply. At a core level, again, this is connected to our central nervous system and our ability to feel safe. The survival mechanism and survival default programming kicks on when the physical body thinks it's in danger. And you've probably heard me say this multiple times if you've listened to my stuff, but that is not meant to go on all the time. Yet when we feel emotionally unsafe, we're still signaling to the body, I'm unsafe. So the body is producing stress hormones that is actually causing our signal in the matrix to program the matrix with I'm unsafe, I'm unsafe, I'm unsafe, there's not enough, I'm not loved, whatever it is. And again, we are the ones signaling into the matrix what reality to reflect back to us. So it's never a matter of having to change anything in the external. If we all went within and changed the programming from within, we would line up to a new reality. And it doesn't matter if I do it and you don't, or you do it and I don't, because there's an infinite amount of realities and we will all line up to the exact reality that we believe in. So even though we all have this shared reality, every single one of us in this class is living that reality from our own perspective, through our own beliefs, and therefore having our own experiences about this reality. So it's so important that we really, really, really understand this. And I feel like that's why throughout this cleanse thus far, I've just given a lot of information and talked a lot about the concepts, because I think this will really help when you get the final version of the cleanse, which will just be more triggers and exercises to help us really keep clear and keep us tuned into the perspective of how this all works, of how to drive our electromagnetic field. But right now, I feel like it's important that the mind really in depth understands what this is, because the more you can understand that it's nonsensical to continue giving the external reality more power than your internal reality, the more the mind will be able to shift and not feel like it's going to get in trouble, quote unquote, for not focusing on the external reality. Or getting in trouble could be translated to not surviving. So, because we need love. So again, this week, I want you to really tune into your energy like you have been doing. And I want you to ask yourself these questions. I want you to ask yourself, what am I currently saying no to in my life that my solar plexus, or my personal power, my personal will, wants to say yes to? So what am I holding back from myself? And then I want you to also ask yourself, what am I saying yes to that my willpower or my personal power wants to say no to? Now, it's really important that we learn where we're doing this, because where we're doing this is where we have beliefs that are out of alignment with truth. We have beliefs that we are powerless, or beliefs that if we don't do this, we're going to get hurt. And this all comes from experience. And so as we go into these areas, we're going to see where we have strongholds and where things may have happened in the past that have caused us to believe that we can't make decisions for ourselves, or that we can't say no to something, or we can't say yes to what we truly want. Remember, this entire universe is based on agreement. And when you agree to something, aka believe in it, you are giving it permission to have authority in your life. That beliefs have authority. And so I want you to really look at where you are not being authentic to who you are. So remember, as we tune into the throat chakra is where we speak our truth. And as I said earlier, this is not about speaking your philosophical truth or making some sort of statement about what you religiously believe or anything politically believe. That has nothing to do with it. This is what you authentically feel. And that's why it's connected to your solar plexus. What is your will? Let yourself speak your will. Let yourself speak your power. And the problem with suppressing that voice, especially if it's something we really care about and we keep saying, it doesn't matter, is all that happens is it's like pushing a ball underwater. And eventually we get triggered in just the right way where what we really feel comes out. And usually then it comes out more forceful and more harsh or more brute-like than we even mean it to. And that's also usually when we'll overpower another and we feel justified to do it because we've believed this belief for so long that we're not allowed to say how we feel. So that belief has literally been our oppressor, which we will often in the lack matrix, we then translate as it's the external world that has more power than me, because the external world is reflecting our beliefs back to us. So it's not the external world that has more power over you, it's your beliefs. Everything comes down to beliefs. And it's important that we know what we believe, because like I said, what you religiously state or politically state or whatever, that it doesn't have anything to do with your beliefs. Your beliefs are rooted in experience. And those experiences for most people, especially childhood experiences where we were most open and therefore where the beliefs took root, those are core patternings and core beliefs that have shaped our entire way that we interact with our reality. And those are the core beliefs. Those are the beliefs that need to be examined, that we are examining in this class. And the only way to even get to them, to even be able to scratch the surface of what those beliefs are, is we have to tune into how we feel, because those beliefs are motivating a certain focus. If we believe we're unsafe, we're going to always be moving towards we either do two things. We're either moving towards what makes us feel safe, or we're moving away from what doesn't make us feel safe. And that determines, that focus, that subtle shift in focus determines whether we're going to be feeling better or feeling worse. Because if we're running from something we don't want, the focus is on what we don't want. So we create what we don't want. If we're moving towards what we do want, the focus is on what we want, and therefore we're creating what we want. And so as you ask yourself these questions, these two questions, what am I currently saying no to that I really want to say yes to? And what am I currently saying yes to that I really want to say no to? Get really clear about it and get as subtle as you want, because sometimes it's big life things, but most of the time it's day-to-day little things we don't allow ourselves to do. Like for me, I want to be in nature every single day, but I don't do it, and I say no to it for reasons of feeling obligated to do something else. So I'm saying yes to things I don't want to do and no to things I do want to do because of the sense of obligation. And we have to be able to see where the patterning is in order to start undoing the thread of the knot. And it takes time, because if we've done this for long enough, which most of us have done it our entire lives, if we've done it for long enough, we've tied ourselves in quite the knot. We literally create our own hell based on what we believe and what we're hiding from, what we're afraid of. And that's why heaven is about restoration. It's restoring our relationship with our heart, our mind, and our body, restoring our relationship with creation, restoring our trust in being alive. So it's important that we first understand where we don't have trust and why we don't have trust and what's causing it and what core original experiences caused us to believe that. And that's why this isn't a logical process. You may logically understand that for example, that overeating is not good for you. But if you have a deep belief that you can't get your needs met and you're not going to be loved, then most likely you're going to overeat, because eating is the most intimate thing you can do that doesn't involve necessarily another person. And we have to have intimacy in our lives. It's vital to our thriving. And so that's why we have to believe our hearts before we believe our minds. We have to understand the needs of the heart so we can meet them directly, so we can heal whatever behavior may be out of alignment with our thriving. So after you ask yourself those two questions, I want you to make a commitment this week to really pay attention to the words you are speaking, because we program the matrix with our words. Words are the first manifested reality of our thoughts, our focus, and our beliefs. Words, like I said, it involves something we can all hear. It becomes universal at that point. It's not just in your mind. The things that we can smell, taste, hear, touch, and see, the five senses, are the things that we are attributing to the physical reality and to what everyone's like, oh, now it's real, now it's truth, because it's somehow witnessed. So this week, as we go into the throat chakra, it becomes vital that we pay attention to what we're saying, because what we say, we program the matrix with. And I want you to think of it like if you were to go online and order some clothes. And as you were ordering, let's say you're ordering a pair of pants and a shirt, you have to put in the size you want. The computer is not going to just assume if you put a size 10 that you actually meant size 8. If you say size 10, it's going to give you size 10. There is a very technical reality when it comes to creation, and it has to do with our words. So what we speak is we are influencing the matrix, the particles external from us, to move in a certain way. Now, often we can say things all the time that we don't believe, or we know what we believe, or we know what we really mean, but no one else does. And maybe our family knows what we really mean because we develop certain ways of speaking with each other, but we all kind of actually read each other, so the words don't necessarily matter. But words do matter, because words are, the body picks it up, your central nervous system picks it up and responds to it. And words have power, especially because we've collectively given them meaning. So it's really important, if we want to become masters of our reality, to learn how to actually speak what feels authentic. Authenticity is key. And also what actually is what we want and is not negated through some negative deterrent. So rather than saying, I don't want to feel sad, saying something like, I feel happy, or I choose to feel happy, or I want to feel happy. But you see the difference, because then the focus is on happy rather than sad. And these are subtle things, but this is a very important part of programming. If you believe you're powerless, you're not going to think your words matter, but they matter more than you think. And I think at this point we all realize that because of the studies that have been done on words and how they affect physical matter. So those are the two things I want you to be paying attention to this week. What are you saying yes to that you want to say no to? What are you saying no to that you want to say yes to? And what are you actually saying altogether? What are your words saying? I really want you to pay attention to this.